Welcome to the Steve and Caleb Show. My name is Caleb.
And my name is Steve. Here we like to talk about politics and current events from a perspective of liberty.
Oftentimes our opinions make both Republicans and Democrats uncomfortable.
Let's dive in.
All right, Steve, so we've had a very, this is a very somber week watching people tear themselves apart.
Yeah.
So one of the big reasons why I don't know how to feel yet about this election, mainly because a Joe Biden presidency as opposed to a Trump presidency, regardless of what we dislike about Trump,
sure.
he handled the lockdowns well, in my opinion. He let the states handle it, which we've agreed is how it should be handled.
Yeah.
Now with the Joe Biden presidency, they're already saying right now that as of Saturday when we're recording right now, they're basically saying Joe Biden is the declared winner, essentially, because they predict based off mathematical.
Yeah, I didn't start
equations.
seeing this literally until about an hour ago.
Right.
From right now when we're recording.
Right. So
I have feelings. Actually, before I think about 2 weeks ago, we were talking about it at work, and I had said that we were discussing the election and everything, and I said I think Biden's going to win this one, and everyone looked at me sideways because I work with a lot of very conservative guys. And they're like, why would you want that? So I don't want it. I just think that's what's going to happen.
Right.
They're like, well, I don't know. I'm like, man, that's it. And they're like, what do you one of my friends who's a little more, I use reasonable, but not to say the other guys are unreasonable. That I just don't think they think this far ahead. And he's like, well, why do you say that? After we were talking about it later, and I said, well, I feel like the last election, there were people voting against Trump and against Hillary, and more people voted against Hillary. Whereas this go around, I think people weren't voting for Biden; they were only voting against Trump because Biden's really not that. It's a lot harder to hate Biden than it is to hate Clinton
or Kamala Harris or really anybody else. Honestly,
to be fair,
except Tulsi Gabbard, she was awesome.
Yeah, I wouldn't have voted for her between her and Trump per se, but between all the Democrats, I would have voted for her.
Yeah,
but anyway. There are a lot of short-sighted people, obviously, that don't realize that Biden's probably not going to make it a year. You essentially voted for Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
That's what you got. We'll see what happens. I don't know.
Well, so what I think is going to happen, and why I bring up the lockdowns in the states, and because more than likely with a Joe Biden presidency, this won't happen until January, until he gets sworn in.
Yeah, realistically, nothing will go into effect until February.
Right. Yeah. But we could be looking at more lockdowns. And the reason I bring up the lockdowns isn't because of the presidency necessarily, but more so because of the people. So there's a video of a business owner. I believe it's in California, and he's essentially talking to what I believe looks like a city council.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. And
he is begging with them, pleading to them, hey, our families are going to go hungry. You can't just keep it shut down like this. He's a war vet. He talks about how he's been to Afghanistan or wherever he was, and how he's had to do whatever not pretty things. And he basically is saying that he could end up doing these things here to essentially make sure his family can survive.
Right.
And so we're going to go ahead and listen to that clip. It's a little short clip. So let's get started.
I wasn't going to speak. I was asked to speak here, Sheriff, good to see you. I'm telling you guys, I'm pretty appalled at what's going on. At first we sat as concerned citizens and we all wanted to figure out how to best navigate our way through this whole COVID thing, And as we realized that it's not quite as dangerous as we thought it'd be, I was absolutely appalled at the cowardice, and as you're sitting there with your masks on, I don't blame you for wearing masks because I'd be hiding my face too if I was you for what you're doing. This is absolutely horrendous what you're doing to these people. I'm a business owner. And I'm telling you, our families are starving. You guys can sit here with your jobs. You can sit here and you're going to get paid. You can fall asleep in your chair like that gentleman's doing behind his mask right there. Okay? And I'm telling you right now we're being peaceful. And you better be happy that we're good citizens, that we're peaceful citizens. But it's not going to be peaceful much longer. Okay? And this isn't a threat. I'm not a criminal. I've never been a criminal. But I'm telling you that good citizens are going to turn into real concerned and revolutionary citizens real soon. And nobody else is going to say that. I'm probably the only person that has the balls to say what I'm saying right now. That we're building, we're organizing, and we'll work with law enforcement or without law enforcement. But you won't stop us when time comes because our families are starving. And if you don't hear the seriousness of my voice, I hope you open your ears and you absolutely listen to what I'm saying. Because this is a warning for what's coming. It's not going to be peaceful much longer. It's not going to be rah-rah. It's not going to be speeches. It's not going to be gathered outside saying a Pledge of Allegiance. It's not going to be waving flags. It's going to be real. When you've seen the things that I've seen, I went to war for this country. I've seen the ugliest, dirtiest part of humanity. I've been in combat. And I never want to go back again. But I'm telling you what, I will to save this country. If it has to be against our own citizens, it will happen. And there's a million people like me, and you won't stop us. Open the county. Let our citizens do what they need to do. Let owners of businesses do what they need to do to feed their families. Take the masks off. Quit masking and muzzling your children. The psychological damage you're doing to them is horrible. I've had 6 friends kill themselves since it's happened. Veterans who lost their jobs. How do you feel about being complicit in perpetuating that? The greatest hoax ever perpetuated on the American people, and you're part of it by wearing your masks. In Shasta County, we're supposed to be red country up here. Not blue country, we're red country up here.
Okay, so after listening to that, really, there's nothing political about what he's saying.
I agree.
He doesn't like say like Trump 2020, raising his fist, or anything crazy like that. He's literally just pleading to be able to do business, to be able to survive.
Yep.
And the thing that makes me like that's the thing that makes me so sad when I watch it is it's not political.
Yeah.
People are acting like the people on the there are people on the right making it political,
right?
But there are a lot of people who literally need money, right? And a lot of liberals, because I don't like to use the word liberal in this sense.
Leftists.
A lot of leftists are, at least a lot of leftists I know, they are not skilled laborers.
Right.
They aren't people that work
or
in
like
factories.
business owners.
Or right. They are they consist of government workers like teachers, or they work in businesses like therapy where it's like kind of funded by the government through like a roundabout way. People, with their healthcare, and government programs pay for these services.
Right.
That's the kind of people we're talking about, and these are the type of people that are for the lockdowns. They aren't people that literally have no money.
Yeah.
The people that have no money are people kind of like you and I. We work kind of normal. I'm not a skilled laborer, but the type of work that I'm in requires work.
Yeah, you actually have to be there.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
I can't do my job through a conference.
I'm a mechanic.
Right.
Like I can't.
You can't fix a car through a computer.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, I can get on like that car simulator game on Steam, but it's not going to pay my bills.
Now, thankfully, both of our jobs are safe, but there are a lot of people's that aren't.
Yeah.
Including business owners. A lot of factories are being deemed non-essential, or they're just closing down because of the public hate towards them not shutting down.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And so that's the biggest thing when I think about Biden presidency and just Democrats in general. Is we could talk about like their progressive policies, and on some of their progressive policies you and I would agree with.
What's an example?
I don't know if I agree with this fully, but I think it's a cool little experiment.
Sure.
I'm sure you saw Oregon.
Yes. I'm actually very, very much pro that.
Now, a lot of people. Okay, so let me backtrack. They basically abolished.
The war on drugs. Congratulations to the war on drugs for winning the war.
To a small scale. Right?
Congratulations to drugs for winning the war on drugs, by the way, in Oregon. Yeah. They've decriminalized substances. That's what they've done.
Well, for small amounts. So if you are a user, Steve, and you have a small amount on you, like let's say you're at a traffic stop. You've been in the military. You've seen these traffic stop videos with your training. I'm sure with force on force training. And a lot of these traffic stops that turn bad are because they have something on them that they will go to prison for.
Right.
And they don't want to, so they shoot the cop.
Right.
So this is a very this should be a back the blue thing, right? I don't want cops being shot, Steve.
I don't either.
Even though you and I have voiced our opinions on like, hey, we don't like unconstitutional police, we are still pro police.
Right.
We are pro good police, and we don't want good police being shot. We have friends that we love, like family who are cops, and we don't want them shot.
Absolutely.
And this should, like I said, it's kind of like an experiment. This should decrease the amount of cops that get shot.
Right.
Because people who get pulled over should not feel pressured to act on violence.
To act out, exactly. There's another aspect to this as well, where, and this is a kind of a discussion I got into somebody from around here, and this person shared an article about Oregon, decriminalizing these substances, blah blah blah, and essentially her argument was, well, doing drugs is ungodly, and I'm like,
that's fine.
I'm like, that's true,
but
I said this, we can't legislate our beliefs.
Correct.
And her whole point,
you can't legislate somebody out of sin. You shouldn't.
Right, yeah, you can't. I mean, you just can't. People are going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
There's going to be illegal.
From a Christian perspective.
And I should add, I have a lot of drug addiction in my family. So beyond the fact that I am in the military, I don't do drugs for that reason. I also, I've been offered, like, just marijuana, which is, like, pretty harmless.
Yeah.
I won't do it. And I won't do it not just because I'm legally not allowed to because of, my military service, but because I don't want to, because drug addiction does run in my family very deeply. So, and not to say that, like, I think that people who do like smoke weed or whatever are the same as like that. For me, it's more like I know that there's that addiction. There's like the genetic thing where maybe I'm more likely to get into like a bad place with it. Blah, blah, blah. So it's just a personal choice for me. It's not even a religious choice per se. It's literally just I don't want to.
Gotcha.
Because of family history and so on. But her whole point was basically, well, it's bad.
Okay.
Like,
yeah.
That's fine. Don't do it then.
Yeah.
But I brought this up before here where in Portugal they decriminalized like everything.
Is that where it was? Because I knew somebody somewhere on the eastern hemisphere did it.
Yeah, it was Portugal, and what they did was they taxed those substances.
Okay.
And they use that tax revenue, and now what they have is they have like centers, like medical type centers, where drug users can go. So say you want to shoot up heroin, they can actually go into this center, and it's funded by this tax money from them. So they buy their heroin from a government legally whatever place.
Really? That's wild.
It's taxed. That tax money goes to help pay for these centers, and they have full-time medical staff on site at these centers, and they can go shoot up heroin with clean needles in a clean environment. They can get their thing on,
Interesting.
Do I think that will ever happen here in the United States with very, very, very thick, like Judeo-Christian values? No, especially not in the Midwest.
I'm a big believer that since the victim is usually just the user anyways.
Right. That's their choice.
It should be decriminalized, but I don't know if the government should help them either.
Yeah, that's where I'm kind of on the fence with it. That being said, the fact that they were using...
Because that's kind of like getting government involved in healthcare in a way.
Right. They were using tax dollars from the sale of these drugs to fund these places. It's kind of like, it's a gray area. I would tend to lean more towards no.
Right.
But
me too.
Just don't tax it. But I don't like taxes anyway. But but anyway, so the thing that's happened is
the numbers are better.
The overall drug use has gone down. The overdoses has almost bottomed out.
Right.
And like and a lot of the bad effects that come with drug use, with illegal drug use, is, like you said, like when people resist, when cops show up, or like people are stealing to pay for their drug habit, which that might still happen.
Yeah.
But
you're not going to abolish evil.
Exactly. But the thing is like I believe, and this is why I like to use the word experiment. And I think that's a good way to look at this. What's happening in Oregon is it's an experiment to see if decriminalizing substances, illegal, drugs, is going to have a net decrease in drug use.
Because that's the whole goal. Remember a few weeks ago we talked about abortion.
Exactly.
And abortion under Trump, like Trump's supposedly pro-life, right? Which I think he might be. But the numbers don't. But the numbers don't show it.
Yeah.
And what matters is the numbers.
Right.
Because with drugs, the whole reason drugs are outlawed to begin with, at least from a civilian's point of view, is it keeps our societies quote unquote clean. Right.
Right.
That is the whole point. It keeps families together and supposedly and keeps our community clean. But it's not working that well.
Right.
So if this works, then it works.
Right.
I mean, there's really no other way to look at it.
My counterpoint to somebody who would say, well, I don't think drugs should be legalized. They can cause bad things to happen.
Yeah.
My whole standpoint of that is, so do you feel the same way about guns?
Right.
Because guns can cause bad things to happen. And and are you saying that we should ban guns because bad things can happen?
And you're speaking from a point of view where drugs have at least influenced your life a little bit.
Right. Quite a bit. Like a very significant part of my life story was.
So you're not speaking out of ignorance.
Right. I've seen it all firsthand.
Because I'm trying to be careful about what I say because I have no idea.
Sure.
I have no clue. I mean, don't get me wrong. I myself have made terrible decisions in my young adult life. I mean, I'm pretty clean cut now. I have a wife and kids, and that all that stuff goes away.
Yeah, domestic bliss.
Yeah. I'm domesticated. Anyways, but I kind of understand drugs a little bit, because I've tried them when I used to be a terrible person. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. But my whole argument for
the only reason you think you were a terrible person is because it was against the law.
Correct. Thank you. Well, and I didn't like what it was doing to my body.
Sure, exactly. And that comes down to personal choice.
Right.
And I think 90% of the stigma against it is just from like the 70s when the hippie movement was real big, or the 60s and 70s, and then it was like, well, these are ungodly, unwashed, blah 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 blah. I should also like to add, I don't necessarily think that meth is good.
No, we don't.
I think it's pretty bad. I've seen what it does.
We both think it's terrible.
Yeah, but it's the person's decision. They're going to do it anyway. And now you're providing them the opportunity to not have to do all the extra illegal things. Do you know what I mean?
No, I do know what you mean.
And like I said, I like that it's an experiment. I will say.
Do you know why most ODs happen?
Why?
I was listening to some show. I forget when or where or what it was, but it was a drug affected person. Like, he had both his parents were drug addicts, and he lived this terrible life. So he pursued drug knowledge, and he's going to try to fix things, right? So this is a guy coming from pure knowledge. This guy has experienced it all,
studied it.
He's also a therapist. He understands both sides. Okay,
right.
And he mentioned that most ODs happen because a person's original drug dealer, an experienced drug dealer, was arrested, and so the user goes and finds another drug dealer, which is usually a less experienced drug dealer, and they give them the incorrect. I don't know how to say it. The incorrect amount of drugs.
Right. I know a lot of it is it's cut with things.
Sure. And that's how people die.
Yeah.
Is because
this is one of
that's 90. He said it was 99% or something.
This is one of the examples where a limited government regulation is a good thing.
Sure.
So at a restaurant, you can't serve food if there's cockroaches in the restaurant.
Correct. Yeah. Don't do meth on the tables, please.
Yeah.
At McDonald's.
Yeah. So with Portugal, marijuana is a perfect example. It really is the gateway drug, but where they have the dispensaries and they're all regulated. Yeah. And I listen to interviews with people who operate dispensaries, and they say the feds are in there, or not the feds because it's not federal legal, but state representatives, health, whatever. Right. It's very hey, make sure you're doing this on the up and up.
Yeah.
So you want take that same example with the overdoses, which that's the big concern. You're not going to have Narcan anymore to wake people up,
right?
If the stuff's monitored properly.
Yeah.
Now people are still going to die. But people are going to die from all kinds of things. America needs to remember that people die every single day for a lot of different reasons,
right?
Including COVID. Disease and COVID and drugs and cars and suicides, and then the list goes on and on and on and on. And people die. It happens. And does it suck? Yeah. Does it suck if it's one of my loved ones? Yeah. But it still happens. And no matter what, we're too cushioned. We're too cushioned here. Everything's too safe. Everything's too nice. Everything's too happy.
Or it's the perception of it.
Exactly. It's what it is. It's not reality.
It's like a mirage.
Exactly.
Which is, I don't know. I was watching this TikTok. I'm embarrassed to say it. I was watching this TikTok, and this guy was 2020 isn't just this random bad year, right? Mm-hmm. The world has always been this way, but for some reason, for good reasons, America, the United States of America, has done such a good job at having everybody perceive that we live this luxurious, non-affected, this that we've had this great protected life, essentially, and that what we've been living in has been an anomaly.
The perception has been broken,
right? So we're seeing all this political corruption. I think
we're seeing hardship is a very good thing.
Correct, because it puts you into perspective,
right? Yeah.
And I saw this picture, and it was of this nice cul-de-sac from the 50s, and it was this is an anomaly, and this can literally end at any moment.
Yep, absolutely.
And it's wow, absolutely. Yeah, that's true.
So going back to the whole organ thing, the discussion I was having, and this I've thought about this all week actually, and it's the same thing with the abortion thing is, anytime you have people that want something and people that provide something. You're creating a market. It's an economy. It's supply and demand. It's the most basic lesson of economics there is.
Okay.
And the evangelical Christian community, in reference to drugs, for example, and they do the same thing with abortion, but on this topic, drugs, which is a lot of who we live around, they want to end the supply of abortions, right? Or the supply of drugs.
Right.
Okay. Why aren't we looking at to reduce because we think
reduce the demand?
I think we all can agree it's a bad thing.
Yeah, of course.
Like a lot of these really heavy things, marijuana, I feel differently about, but a lot of the heavier stuff is not a good thing.
Yeah, heroin's bad.
You see what happens when someone is like on meth, from like year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, whatever. You see like their body's degrading, right? And you see it happen. So I think that is a bad thing in that example. So what are we doing we're let me back up here. We're looking at how to get rid of the supply of drugs,
right,
but not the demand. Why do they want it? Why is it being sought out? That's the issues we need to tackle. The abortion one is a perfect example. And this is another discussion I had with a mutual friend of ours.
Yeah.
Actually, he's your brother-in-law.
Okay.
Where we were talking about Joe Jorgensen. This is prior to the election, and he had made the comment. He's like, "Well, I'd probably vote for her, but she's pro-choice," which is true.
It's a good argument.
But I am also pro-life. We've established this. But her policies would result in a net decrease in abortions, and not because they would make abortions illegal, but because they make birth control more accessible.
Right.
Therefore, reducing the number of the demand.
Right.
So you're reducing the demand for abortions.
It's almost like people would rather vote, and I'm not putting him in this umbrella, but it is almost like people would rather vote for the perception of pro-life instead of the actual numbers decreasing.
And I'll say this in his example, in case he does accidentally listen, is he kind of saw my point. Like he's like, okay, I get that.
Oh yeah.
And we discussed Trump, whether or not I personally don't think he's pro-life. I also don't think he's pro-choice. I think he just doesn't give a crap.
Yeah.
But
he cares about the economy.
He exactly. He knows in order to get the Republican vote, he has to say he's pro-life.
Politics.
Fine, that's fine. And I guess between that and saying you're pro-choice, I'd rather pick the pro-life guy. Sure. But the drug thing is where's the demand coming from? So and again with marijuana, there's all the positive things that come out of it.
There is.
It's the thing, but the difference to me between like marijuana and meth, for example, is meth is highly processed and manufactured. Like if you can show me somewhere like in a mountain where meth naturally grows, you can make an argument for being a quote natural thing. Marijuana obviously grows in the wild.
Therefore,
people find it like in their woods sometimes.
So since it's a manufactured item, you would assume, or you would probably argue, that it would be subject to government regulation like food, since it is a manufactured item, unlike marijuana.
More so that, not to say because it's it's manufactured means it equals bad,
right?
But because being that it is manufactured, if there was some kind of regulation, maybe you could like make it safe, I guess. Whereas marijuana just exists already.
Maybe not purely safe, but safer.
Yeah, exactly. And
this is a touchy subject.
Yeah,
because a lot of people know that drugs are bad.
Yeah, drugs are bad. Okay. Yeah.
But my big argument is still the cops, man. Like, even though people know my opinions about the police and where they're headed, in my opinion, I don't want them to get shot. Like, why would I want the people that I love, the friends that I love, to be shot?
Right.
Because I have people that I love that are cops, and they're always pulling people over who have drugs.
Yeah.
That's just how it goes.
Yep.
And I don't know. And if marijuana or whatever was decriminalized,
that would cut
at a handhold amount, because that's what Oregon did.
Right.
Or Oregon decriminalized it. I forget the way they worded it, but essentially to where a person that has like a handful of drugs couldn't essentially be arrested, but if they had like a huge supply, they could.
Right.
So again, it kind of goes back to what you're saying. They didn't criminalize the demand. They decriminalized the demand, but the supply is still criminalized, I believe, because if there's a certain amount you can have.
That's kind of a weird gray area, because where do they get it? Right. The guy that's selling it to you is going to have a lot. Right. Is he going to still have to hide out? Like,
but those are the people that are killing cops and causing problems in
your
society.
guy with a little eighth of something on him, he's not the guy like blasting people away. It's the guy with like the trunk full of cocaine.
Well, the guy with an eighth are killing cops still. They're still shooting.
But I'm saying like the real bad, the high level stuff. You start involve cartels and all kinds of other things. That's
still illegal, I believe, in Oregon.
That's kind of weird that they did that.
Yeah, it is weird, but like it's kind of like what you're saying. They decriminalized those who are seeking the demand.
Sure.
And so, we could be wrong.
Absolutely. I'm glad you said that. So, absolutely.
But it's like I said before, it's an experiment.
Yep.
They were the ones with the balls to do it.
Yep.
I'm glad.
Yep. I will say all the states who have decriminalized marijuana, like they're not having like a crime wave from it.
No. I'd be curious to look at cop shooting statistics and see if those have decreased and things like that.
Right. I'm sure they have.
With my point earlier, that's
I don't know. I don't know. We could be wrong. Could be totally wrong. But I know through my life experience with the drug
real
world,
life experience.
I mean, you just if you decriminalize that stuff, why is it a problem anymore? If someone wants to go, I'm not a huge fan of the Narcan, to be honest. But again, I'm pro. People are like, well, how can you be pro-life and like not want to resuscitate those people? It's like they made a decision. Babies don't make a decision to kill them to get killed.
Yeah, those are two very different things.
Yeah. Not that I don't feel bad for those people or if they have kids or whatever, but there's an argument to be made if the parents are that screwed up and they got kids. Like we've all seen the picture of like the two parents that OD'd in the car and the kids in the car seat. Horrible situation. Yeah. But that might be a good thing for that kid
to be taken out of that situation.
Yeah. There's an argument to be made there.
We would definitely need more.
Just because someone's your blood family doesn't necessarily mean they're the best thing for you.
We would definitely need more people willing to take those kids.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. So what do you think about I don't know, the election? Like, I mean, this is kind of crazy. They are calling this to be...
I'll tell you, I'm very highly upset. You know why? Huh. I think the Democrats and Republicans stole the vote from us. From the Libertarians. They stole the vote from us. They caused us to lose the presidency, Caleb. That's how it works, right? You just say the other side.
You're just
because they're blaming the Libertarians for Trump losing it, but...
Right.
I will say when I did vote on Tuesday, when I clicked Joe Jorgensen, it did not click both Trump and Biden because I was told that a vote for her was a vote for Trump and a vote for her was a vote for Biden. Right. But it only had her. So is that correct?
Right.
Is that the right way it works?
I think so. The way it's supposed to work is you're supposed to just
get the one vote for the one person.
Yeah, you choose one vote for one person that you think is that is the most qualified to lead the country.
Yeah. I post obviously that's sarcastic. It's a dumb joke. I posted that on a page, and someone's like, "What state are you in? You need to contact your voting office." I was like, "It's a joke, guy." Like, come on, dude. Like a few people got it. I was like,
now they're saying that this is going to make the Bush Gore recount whole ordeal look like a game of badminton.
Yes,
they're saying that this is going to be
it's going to be litigated,
completely drawn out. And you know what, Steve? I hate to say it, but I'm glad it's happening because it's making me look less crazy because of my claim that I made last week of how this is going to happen. And I told everybody this is how it's going to happen, and nobody really bought into it. I don't know, maybe it's just too crazy, but looks like it's on its way to being correct.
It's happening.
It's finally happening.
I'm under attack right now by your cat.
Oh. But if they don't decide a person, what do we say? It was like December 12th or 14th.
Sounds right.
Essentially, it goes into the phase of Congress having to decide who.
Man, I've seen so many conspiracies on it. I don't know. I mean, one thing I've seen that I kind of believe in is, you know what would have prevented all this? Voting in person with an ID.
That's what I said last week.
Yeah.
I'm so against the mail-in absentee stuff.
Yeah. It's something I didn't realize. I was under the impression that the way the mail-in voting worked was you like got online and you applied for a mail-in ballot and then you filled it out and then sent it back in. That's not how it always worked.
Okay.
In some places, they sent out ballots
to like everybody's mailbox.
To addresses, like en masse.
Kind of like an advertisement.
Yeah.
Like
and then people magazine. And then the argument being made is that, people who were dead or didn't live there anymore.
Sure.
I mean, I hate to quote the man, but Ben Shapiro said he just recently moved to Florida and his address in California received a mail-in ballot. And he voted, I think he voted in Florida, but because he moved so recently, like he still got ties back there. But he said his address received one with his name on it. So if someone lived at his old house that he hasn't sold yet and was like wanted to vote one way or the other, they could mail his vote in to California and then him still vote in Florida because there's not like an interstate transfer where they can like verify through like social security number or something.
No, they don't verify anything.
No.
Did you ever vote like overseas or through your military service? So I did.
Yeah.
Dude.
How'd that work?
I literally emailed my county. I don't know if it was the clerk or whatever. Doesn't matter. I emailed them. They emailed me back with this form, and they were just like, all right, choose who you want.
You're a kid.
And I did.
Just over email.
Yeah, there was no verification. It was through my Gmail account. Like, anybody could have done it.
Oh, wow.
If you had it would be very tedious to do, but if you had the names and email addresses for every soldier overseas or whatever, you could easily get thousands of votes.
Yeah.
Millions of votes.
You get a couple people doing it. Yeah.
And it required almost nothing.
Yeah.
I just chose and
I don't
sent it
think
to them
that'll fly next time around.
And it worked because when you go to like the state website, you can see your voter history, believe it or not, and who you voted for in it, and it's up there. I mean, it worked.
Yeah.
But
I know in Pennsylvania there was a voter who was born in like 1852 that voted for Biden. One of those votes that showed up overnight kind of thing,
right?
And that they were invested. So there's a lot of fishy stuff. So they're gonna drag this out,
and they should,
for a
because
long time.
Not because I'm really rooting for Trump, but it's like the sake of integrity is at stake, and so it's like, as a voter, no matter what happens, you should want this to be played out, because if it's not, it's just going to get worse. So
I will make a counterpoint to the voting in person with an ID.
Okay.
A person I know who was prior service in the military, kind of a family friend of mine, known her forever. She posted something about why voter ID is having to have ID is voter suppression.
I've heard some of these arguments.
And I'm like, why? And she brought up that she's been divorced and now remarried.
Okay.
And she was showing me all the list of paperwork she had to have in order to get her license changed with her new name,
right?
To get the new ID, and it was like ended up adding up to it's like $600. Because now again, it kind of falls on her in a way, because like you have to have your birth certificate and you have to have a certificate of from your first marriage, and she didn't have like a lot of this stuff, and so she had to go get new forms printed off and pay for all these new forms, and all this big long. It was like a 4-month process to get her new license, her name changed legally, and so she made the point that, there's a huge cost to entry for women specifically that get their name changed in a marriage, especially if they've had multiple marriages.
Right.
That's a valid point. But that being said, I feel like that's not the majority of people.
It isn't. That's a good point, and it should be fixed.
And there can be an argument made for, okay, so if it's this hard to get your driver's license per se,
right?
If the states are going to require some form of government ID, then they should provide that ID. You can even call it a voter ID, where it has like your address. It has to be verified. Obviously.
So we moved addresses within the last 10 months. And I didn't do my ID for a while. It might even be illegal to do it as long as I did. But anyways, I finally got it fixed. But before I got it fixed, I went online and changed my voter's registration, because you can do that without changing your ID. And so I went online, punched in my address, and I got it within like 4 days. And they just sent it. It's like a piece of paper. It's like, you're ready. You are now ready to vote at this address with this piece of paper. And it took like 4 days. I did it online. It was free. It didn't cost me anything.
Right.
They didn't require really any verification either.
So essentially it's voter ID.
Yeah.
In a way. And if they just did it, because like our hunting licenses and fishing licenses in Indiana are just a sheet of paper.
Yeah.
Or a PDF file on your phone. You can now have it on your phone, by the way. I was told that by a CO.
That's cool.
It doesn't have to be that hard. And by having that verification step, are you going to limit people like voting under dead people's names? No, but are you going to make it a little bit harder? Yeah. Especially if they have to vote in person.
It should be, I don't want to say hard, but it shouldn't be like the easiest thing ever.
Yeah.
Because then you get fraud.
And yes, it is a right. Voting is like one of the most fundamental American rights.
And they should make it to where it's hard almost not to as well.
Right. But that being said, it doesn't mean you have to just do it willy-nilly for free with no questions asked. Right.
Right.
I can't do anything, like I can't buy a gun, no questions asked.
Right. But you can decide the future of the country,
right.
No questions asked.
Exactly. So, yeah, it's definitely like there's improvement to be made. I don't really know. I don't know what the answer is. I do like the idea of having to vote in person.
I do, yeah. That's still my
with an
thing.
ID. But just because again, you're never going to eliminate voter fraud. Some people are saying there's zero evidence for voter fraud. I'm like,
there's always some.
It's like I saw a thing on Facebook the other day. It said your chances of getting killed by a cow are low, but never zero.
Yeah,
that's
voter
fraud.
That's the same thing.
Yeah, you're gonna have bad things happen. Yeah. It is what it is. I will say those bad things being amplified like they have this year are not helpful to the peaceful transition of power, which is like one of the hallmarks of our government style, is the peaceful transition of one president handing over power to the next guy.
Right.
We'll see what happens. It'll be interesting to see.
Now, if there's just a huge amount of voter fraud evidence and, they don't maybe side with Trump, I'm not saying Trump should incite violence or anything, but do you think there's an argument to be had that, like, this whole peaceful transition of power should still proceed? Because if there is, like, verifiable, like, indisputable evidence, it's just gonna get stuck. Crazy.
It's gonna get stuck in litigation. Yeah. I guess at some point it'd be up to the
Supreme Court.
The Supreme Court probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a weird one.
Because we've made it pretty clear how we feel about the guy.
Yeah.
We're not the biggest fans, but at the same time, if there's clear evidence there is fraud and nothing is really done about it, and they're just going to hand Biden the presidency, then that is a problem to me.
Yeah. And I guess my question would be is, okay, so say it gets investigated, but then the inaugural date comes and goes. So are you going to just not inaugurate Biden? Are you going to keep Trump in the spot?
Right.
I would think the right answer would be go ahead and inaugurate Biden, but if the Supreme Court deems that his election was fraudulent and they prove, just do another inauguration.
I agree.
Why does it have to be that hard? You know what I mean? Like,
and who knows how that will actually play out, but it was just something that was going through my head.
And I want to end the election talk as far as the presidency goes on a positive note. Let's be realistic. Probably not that much is going to change. Because the Republicans gained so much in like the House and the Senate.
Yeah,
like they had a really good showing up for Republican candidates.
I saw that a Democrat put in. Well, he didn't put him himself, but he had like a total of like $100 and some million for a Senate run against a like very big time Republican, and obviously he lost. And it's like, dude, like
the one down in Kentucky with.
Mitch. Have you seen the chick that ran against him?
Yeah, so she was
so annoying.
She was like a former Marine pilot. Yeah, I think,
and her motto, she always says, "I'm a Marine and a mom," and everybody's like,
mom.
"Clap, clap, clap, clap,
yeah.
clap!" Like, oh yay!
Yeah, Sarah. No one clapping Sarah Palin said that.
Right.
But she same thing. She raised
Sarah
like
Palin
90.
Marine?
No, but I'm saying like that was her whole thing. Like, what's the difference between a pit bull and a mom? Lipstick. I can see it in Russia, but. Just that like annoying, like
right.
It's not funny. Sarah.
She was terrible.
Yeah, she was awful.
Did you know? So I know I'd hate to interrupt you, so please save what you're saying.
Okay.
But did you ever watch Parks and Recreation?
Yes.
And there's that scene where they talk about Ben Wyatt, how he was like this 18-year-old mayor, and he like ran his town into the ground by building the sports complex with all their tax money, and they're still like recovering for it financially to this day.
Right.
That is based off of Sarah Palin.
Yes,
she was a mayor or whatever in her little town in Alaska, and she bankrupted her entire city because she like put in like this big hockey arena.
Yeah, gotta love it. But that ran against Mitch McConnell. She raised like $90 million and lost like it wasn't even close.
It's just gone.
He had like 67% or something. It was like
so. If you add those $200 million funds, you could solve a lot of the Democrats' problems.
Yeah,
but they don't care.
No,
they don't care.
It's all.
We
it's
both
too
know
big. It's too big.
Fluff, but
yeah. How did you? So the presidency, I had no strong feelings about. I still don't. As far as like the results of it,
it's scary either way, though. Let's be honest. Change is scary.
Sure,
to an extent.
It's uncertain.
That's what I'm saying.
I still voted for Joe. By the way, the county I live in, because we live in different counties, she had 200 votes. I was like, oh, come on, Fountain County, get it together. I was like, I knew Trump was going to win, but come on,
That's actually more than I thought.
Yeah, I told you that. Yeah. I was like, man, I thought we'd at least get at least a 500 plus. I thought for sure. Like, I know my whole family voted for her. I
know it shouldn't be this way.
Can I be honest?
Yeah.
I got my whole, because I was talking about drug addiction and stuff. My entire family, like my mom, like my siblings and my mom, they're like, well, why should I vote for her? I was like, she wants to legalize marijuana. They're like, she's got my vote. There's that easy.
No
I
way.
swear to God.
That's hilarious.
Like I didn't even have to get into like her tax plan or nothing like that.
Right.
It was just like she wants to legalize weed federally. And they're like, I'm in. But
no, it shouldn't be this way. But I think she wasn't going to win either way.
No.
But a lot of people, I think a lot of people didn't like her just because she was a female. Because let's be honest.
I hate saying that, but yeah, I think you're right.
Let's be honest. The women in the military that we've served with are awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a lot of people's subconscious opinion that a woman executive official that is in charge of the military is kind of it's not normal, right?
Right.
It's not what we're used to, and I think that is probably the biggest disadvantage she had. Besides the fact that
I want to clarify, you're not saying that you think a woman can
No.
Yeah. But you're saying like that's the perception.
Yeah. So on my PSD team in Afghanistan, we had two chicks, and they were awesome.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is a cop now, and she like set the record in the state for like the most push-ups of any like cop.
Really?
Like I believe it's including men too. Like she did like 100.
Awesome.
She did like 120 in like 100 seconds. It was crazy.
That's what I like about the military.
Fast.
It's a really good example of no one cares like what you look like, where you're from, what's between your legs. Can you do your job?
Yeah,
that's all we care about. Can you do your job? Are you a competent person? We've spoken about this several times.
That's a good example of how you and I think.
That's how.
But I don't think that's how the rest of
you're right. You're
the
absolutely
country
right.
thinks. Even liberals, they're not liberals. Progressives. A lot of progressives act like they're very all inclusive.
Pro-diversity, yeah.
But I do think there is that subconscious of like, well, a man.
Well, look at when Hillary ran. Everyone's like, "Oh, it's the first she's going to break the glass ceiling." Yo, I had a good chance for this one too. Like,
right.
You know, and she's pro-choice. There you go, ladies. Like, I don't like it, but hey, there you go. You know,
sure.
But yeah, she didn't have a chance. But that being said, something her campaign release was because they averaged over 1% of the vote nationally. They are guaranteed to be on the ballot next go around. That's a big win.
Like her as a person, or the party?
The Libertarian Party will now be part of a big part of her campaign for like the last 8 months was going state to state to state to state, getting on the ballot,
right?
Because they had to like show within each state they had enough support to get on. So she was the only, besides Trump and Biden, she was the only candidate on every ballot in all 50 states.
Okay, yeah.
It's a big deal.
I saw that. Yeah, that is.
Because now she's the next Libertarian candidate, whoever that will be, and I hope it's Justin Amash if he's still around.
He's all right.
Now they won't have to campaign just to get on the ballot.
Right.
Now they can just campaign for the votes. You know, and one thing I was disappointed with was she did receive less of a vote than Gary Johnson, and Gary Johnson was a big shiny turd.
Kind of, yeah.
He was horrible.
He had a lot of good things.
He had good ideas, but like just.
Like he was a business owner. Like
yeah.
there was a lot of good experience. He was a governor, which is a plus because a lot of libertarians have never held a position like that.
Yeah,
which is why Justin Amash would be.
He'd be a good pick. Yeah,
he has some
he's
government experience.
Right, exactly. But I'm like the whole Aleppo thing. Do you remember that?
Yeah, that was.
He's like, what's
I don't
Aleppo?
blame him for that.
I'm like, this is like the thing in the news. How do you not know? But
it was the thing in the news. I've never campaigned for president, so I'm sure he was busy.
Sure.
I mean,
yeah. But it's like you have to be on your
stuff.
Yeah, that's all there is to it.
So you wanted to talk about the Fifth Amendment and how it goes into something that popped up on Facebook, on our page even, which is all these leftists, not all of them, but a lot of them, are posting about this website. And the website has since been temporarily disabled. Like you can't really do anything on it, but its purpose was to file Trump supporters.
Right, to like list them in a registry.
Have like a profile. Yeah, it's like a sex offender registry for Trump supporters.
Yeah.
And there's an argument of like, well, it's just the people who supported them financially and supported the PACs and whatever, but that's still wrong.
Yeah.
First off. But anyways,
the big one was AOC.
Yeah.
Like she's sitting
here,
government.
I'll just read what she said because it's disturbing.
Yeah, it's one thing if you have like 6 random people on Twitter like saying
it was a lot of people,
but when you have like significant people with
multiple
significant influence with the blue checks, and you got AOC who's just sitting.
Is anyone archiving these Trump sycophants for when?
Sycophants.
Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Is anyone archiving these Trump sycophants for when they try to downplay or deny their complicity in the future? I foresee decent probability of many deleted tweets, writings, photos in the future. So she's essentially wanting to hold people accountable for what their opinions are.
Yeah.
which is a very dangerous game to play.
Absolutely.
Because if somebody shows up on my doorstep because I'm put on a list because I supported a certain candidate, I will slaughter you.
Yeah. Yeah. If you want to come after me for my beliefs, you better come ready.
That's just self-defense. I'm not like inciting violence or anything.
Sure.
That's like saying if somebody tries to hurt me, I'm going to kill him.
Yeah.
And that's what
That's what it is.
That's what it is.
But like, look at the countries that have done that.
Venezuela,
Soviet Union,
yes,
China,
Venezuela is the most recent one. Well, North Korea too. They're super communist.
Thought police.
Anyway.
If you like, if something is implied that you disagree with the government in North Korea, like your neighbor can have a problem with you,
forever.
You're going to jail and going to work in a slave labor camp the rest of your life.
And you're probably going to die there.
And your quality of life already sucked.
Yeah,
but
now there is some arguments with the way they worded these tweets that they're not like. They're not wanting to register every single Trump voter,
right.
but it's still wrong. Because that is the next step.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the slope is always, I don't know what you want to call it. The slope is always sloping, right?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
When it comes to anything in life, whether it's like gun control,
that's
or taxes,
the name of the episode, by the way.
The slope is always sloping, and unless it is readjusted or fixed, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't like this, obviously, and we see what the next step is because it's sloping. So
we'll see what happens, man.
The slope is wet.
But
you want to talk about the Fifth Amendment,
right?
And it ties into this.
Sure. Oh, wrong page here. Here we go.
Because I should probably let you explain it, but it ties into this.
I'll read the text of it, and then we'll share things about it. So the Fifth Amendment text reads: "This is on constitution.congress.gov. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment, excuse me, wow, these are big words. Words are hard. Indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia, capital M, when in actual service in time of war or public danger, nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb, nor shall be compelled, this is the important part, nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation." There is a lot in that amendment.
Yeah.
Most people use it to basically not have to self-incriminate themselves.
Right.
That's like, there was an old Dave Chappelle skit where he's like, "I plead the fifth," because he's like on trial for something. Right. But there's so much in there. I will notice if the first part of that, it basically says, unless you're in the military, we can do whatever we want. But anyway, I've never really noticed that before, but I just caught that. In time of war, which, GWAT, we're always in war right now, unfortunately. But the way that this applies to putting Trump supporters on a list, so to speak, is...
It incriminates them.
You're incriminating people, and then... You are innocent until proven guilty.
Right.
But by the intention, the assumed intention, I should say, of listing these people is to hold them, quote unquote, accountable. What does that sound like? That's usually when people say that, they mean legal action.
Yes.
Or to harm them.
Yes.
So you're listing people because you disagree with their ideas to hold them accountable, whatever that means.
Now, let's pause here. So let's talk about Nazi Germany, the extreme.
Right.
The people that support, killing however many Jews it was. You could argue a scenario like that, people may need to be held accountable.
Yeah.
Maybe. I would like to think about that and ponder that, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're literally talking about whether or not your president wants to kill babies or not, or fetus or whatever. And because really Trump's biggest difference is between the Democrats, because he's not a big gun guy. He's not a big abortion guy. It's just mainly just the economy.
Yeah.
And so I don't see how these people can convince themselves that this is necessary.
Yeah.
Because
I mean,
Trump had a lot of Democrat consistencies with him.
He used to be a Democrat.
Yeah. He used to live in New York City.
That was a big concern when he got elected, was like, oh no, he's a rhino. That's what they always say.
It turns out there were some things about him.
Yeah. Now, a lot of his policies were a lot more conservative than people expected.
Yes.
But he still had a lot of things that were
So my point is
more
like,
New York, big city.
What has he done to make people think this is necessary. Now,
Right.
if for some reason, if like an article came out where like Trump really was like killing Mexicans at the border, and then okay, we could talk about maybe
He's going down there with
we
like,
can look at his campaign,
like a gold-plated like Desert Eagle.
Yeah,
the time has come. Like just going down there blasting people.
Jeez,
No.
Then
You know what he's done? His rhetoric.
Right.
People on the left, to them, saying things that they don't like is hate. You know what they would call hate speech is the same thing as physically assaulting somebody.
I'm sure if people like, I mean, people do listen to our show, but I'm sure if like millions of people listen to our show, people would consider us hate speech.
Absolutely, because we say things they don't agree with. Yeah. I mean, people think that because they hear something that they disagree with and it like makes them feel uncomfortable, that
like they feel attacked.
That's emotional stress. You're stressing me. That's bad for my health. It's an attack. No, it's not. You're a sissy. You're soft.
Yeah.
So grow up, dude. Like that's what everyone always says. And something again, I hate to quote him, but Ben Shapiro said that I totally agree with was 15 years ago. You know, all these college students like want their safe spaces, or more like 10 years ago, like they want their safe spaces, and they want hate speech is violence, and they're all saying these things. Well, the business world and a lot of like Republicans and conservatives thought, well, that's because they're still in college. Wait till they get out in the real world,
right,
and they get toughened up.
Right.
The thing is they got in the real world, and instead of adapting to their world, they adapted their world to them.
Or they tried.
They've been very successful.
Yeah, they are very successful.
Unfortunately, I mean, how many people who have a job have had to sit through like some kind of diversity training or
I have. You have.
Sexual assault.
Those might be necessary.
Sure, there's a point to be made for them, but like the amount of and the things that are said, a lot of it's like, okay, don't be a garbage person.
Right.
Done. And like, by the way, I haven't done any of those things. Why am I would I have to sit through this 2-hour thing for something I've never done?
Mm-hmm.
And I've never, not even like might do it. Like there's so many things we do because something might happen. It's like just to accept some risk. Nobody wants to accept risk anymore.
Right.
Everyone is soft, man.
Yeah, I
keep
agree.
saying that's my thing. Is I say everyone's soft. So, one more thing I want to add. So, you don't have to incriminate yourself if you were a Trump supporter. I was not, so I'm good to go. Nor did I vote for Holcomb. That's the last thing I want to talk about was rainwater.
Yeah. So we live in Indiana.
Go ahead and say what you're
saying. The governor's race was perceived to be a very close race between all three candidates because the government incumbent pissed off a lot of people for shutting down the economy. People lost their jobs and went broke. People missed payments, and it hurt. It hurt a lot of people. Thankfully, I'm not part of that.
It didn't hurt Walmart.
It didn't hurt the big stores, which we talked about last week. But there was this perception that Rainwater, which is the Libertarian candidate, had a very good shot. And I still think he got a lot of votes, more than he would have any other election.
Yeah.
But it seemed like everybody we knew, or at least like let's just say like 85% of everybody we knew, just like an arbitrary percentage, they all seemed like they were going to vote for Rainwater.
Yeah.
And then for some reason on election day,
it didn't pan out.
It just got dropped on its head.
I was sitting in my living room and I started seeing the counties come in.
Yeah.
I didn't care about the presidency.
No.
I only was watching the governor's race.
So was I.
And I watched it and I kept seeing Holcomb. I was like, what?
Yeah.
What? And I'm not gonna lie, dude. I was kind of upset about it. Like that was the first time I've been like really upset about like any political office. I was like, but it was more like confused because I was like, man, everybody I know was gonna vote for Rainwater.
Yeah,
everybody.
Because people people like our family and our friends claimed that they didn't want to vote our state into poverty because that's what that is. When a vote for Holcomb was a vote to turn our state into poverty again.
Right.
Because
for another lockdown.
That's what we were in April. People did not have money because, I mean, you could say like, oh, well, the unemployment was increased and people were making all this money. Dude, like half the people who submitted for unemployment didn't get it until like September.
Right. It was
people
big, ugly
very
government.
poor.
Yeah. And I stopped and I'm like, okay, I shouldn't be upset about this. Like it sucks for sure. But my thinking was okay, what went wrong?
Yeah.
I'm already thinking for the next step. And I thought, what the thought I had to myself was, you know the clip where the chick, she has like a green jacket and the glasses on. They say, Donald Trump is the president-elect. She goes, no! Like that, just like the famous clip.
I kind of had that like
jacket on. Emotionally. Yeah.
I did too.
I kind of had that emotion. I was like, what? Are you serious?
No, it's not that I expected him to win. I just expected it to be closer.
Well, so my thought process was, I did exactly what Hillary supporters did in 2016. Everyone I knew was voting for him. I'm sure that's what they thought. Everyone I knew is voting for Hillary. Yeah. There's no way she's going to lose, right? Even the polls were like erring in a lot of the polls in Rainwater's favor.
Yes.
But didn't turn out that way.
The reason I was upset is because people I know and love voted for him. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't lose my job, but we were shut down for a long time, right? Now, thankfully, I'm financially stable and nothing bad happened.
Right.
But something could have.
Right. And so, not everybody has like a little bit of forethought.
No.
To have savings.
It's hard
because
to have
not
savings.
Everybody goes through the Dave Ramsey Financial Peace University.
It's hard to save.
Yeah.
And so I saw that as the people I know and love wanted me to lose my job again. Mm-hmm. And that's how I saw it. I took it very personally. Now, it's not because I want people to like have the same ideas as me and vote. No. It has nothing to do with that. I just took it personally because it's like, you want me to lose my house. Like, are you going to make my house payments when this happens again?
Because you're not going to. Things down again? Right.
People are like, oh, well, we're here for you, blah, blah, blah. Right. No, you're not.
It's all rhetoric.
Yeah. Are you going to give me the money I need to pay for every single bill every single month when we're shut down again? No, you're not. Now, if you are, then cool.
Yeah, sure. I'd love for you to prove me wrong.
Yeah, please prove me wrong because I'm not stuck in my ways.
Right.
So if you're going to prove me wrong, prove me wrong.
Absolutely.
But they're not.
Yeah, I was pretty upset about that. I will say, and this is the positive note I want to end on. If you haven't paid attention to Rainwater's campaign, he said if you have a Rainwater Henry sign, William Henry was his running mate,
Lieutenant Governor running mate.
Right. Yeah. He said if you have it, hold on to it. You're going to need it again in 2024.
Yeah, that's
awesome.
awesome.
Henry agreed to run with him again in 2024 for governor. So
good.
I think next go around might have a better shot.
Maybe.
I have a lot more realistic viewpoint on how getting a third party elected governor would work. So it's unfortunate with my job I can't like directly run or not run for, but like campaign for a partisan candidate. But I can share my opinion on things, which is what I'm doing now. So that's kind of cool. I thought he said he would run again. He said they'll just use the same signs. So I'll put it up in my garage for 4 years, and hopefully Holcomb doesn't cause me to lose my house, so I can keep my garage.
Yeah,
I don't think that'll realistically happen.
But it's
I will say, and I don't remember if you saw this or not. Holcomb did come out and say there's all these accusations saying I want another shutdown. He goes, that's not true. There's not one planned right now. He goes basically like
he said that last time.
This is true, but at least he made an effort. I'll give him points for that.
But he was quoted for saying if the numbers continue to go up, he's going to shut us down. That is what he said.
This is also true.
So it's like he's like playing with what he's saying. He's like, well, I didn't necessarily say.
It's almost like he's a career politician.
Yeah. Anyways, well, I say we wrap it up, and we'll see you guys next week.